The art of intervention. Consider this scenario. You're in the kitchen preparing dinner when you see your 3-year-old child reach to grab a pot on the stove. Without hesitation, you intervene to avert a potential disaster, and you spring into coaching mode to educate your child about the potential hazard, reinforcing the do's and don'ts. The next day, you're at work and see someone standing on a chair attempting to reach a folder on a bookshelf. Or you're in the field and see someone reaching outside a scaffold to open a hard-to-get valve. Ask yourself, are you just as willing to intervene in these sorts of situations? Dealing with difficult situations. When it comes to safety, how willing are we to speak up if something doesn't look or feel right? How much time do you spend observing and being part of safety interactions in your workplace? This animation explores the challenges of intervention and shares some tips on the courage to intervene and the character to accept. Learning to intervene. Intervention is a skill that can be learnt, but it takes practice and a consistent approach. We also need to know how to have quality conversations about safety. Fundamentally, everyone needs to possess chronic unease and have daily conversations about no harm to people or the environment. In our language, Goal Zero. Increasing safety conversations and intervening when required will help deliver Goal Zero. But intervention is a choice. We make the decision to speak up or stay quiet. Courage to intervene. There are 5 main factors to a good intervention. That is, 1. Make a connection. 2. Be attentive. 3. Seek to understand what you see or hear. 4. Explore options. 5. Seek a commitment on actions. Let's explore each element. Connection. It's rare that urgent intervention, like the child at the stove, is required to avert disaster. In most cases, rushing in is not necessary. To make a good approach, we need to open a conversation in a respectful, engaging way. Make it personal. Make eye contact. If you're in the field, shake the person's hand. It shows you're making an effort. And be persistent. If you think you're being fobbed off, question why that might be the case. It's easy to derail a good connection. Don't yell unless absolutely necessary, or think that someone else will raise it. It's much better to have a what-if conversation than an if-only conversation. Nor should you wait to raise a problem. Interventions are best done on the spot. This can take great courage, but if your motivation is clear, you can retain your credibility, even if it's a tough message to deliver. Attentive. Being attentive is about being in the moment and listening to what someone has to say in return. Maintain your eye contact, nod your head, affirm your understanding, even if it's just, yeah, I understand. Paraphrasing and verifying your observations demonstrates your level of engagement. Seek to understand. Intervening needs to be about two-way, respectful communication. Keep the focus on what you saw, heard, or smelt. Be specific. Give the details. Who, what, when, where. No one can argue with this. Declare what you know, if anything, about the issue observed, but don't act like the expert. Up until your intervention, they were in control. You're just commenting on what you saw, heard, or smelt. Focus on the issue at hand or behaviour. Refrain from making premature judgments of the person. Give the other person a chance to have their say. Explore options. Exploring options is not about imposing your will. It's agreeing between you how to safely move forward. Include what you would want to see happen and explain why. A simple question to ask here is there a safer way to perform this task, and if so, what is it? To do this may require a change in the individual's behaviour. For example, I realise that I took a shortcut using a chair to reach for the top shelf. Change in practice. Don't store materials on the top shelf. Or change in equipment. Perhaps a footstool is a better option? If the person's view is different, seek to understand why. Agree what, if any, follow-up is required. Paraphrase what you heard from them to make sure you're on the same page. Explain your part, understand theirs. Commitment. A good intervention should end just as well, if not better, than it started. Making this happen involves being clear about what you do when you leave, making sure you follow up any actions that you commit to, and saying thank you. If the person accepted the intervention, give them the courtesy of thanking them. It goes a long way. Intervention works both ways. We've talked through the 5 elements of a good intervention and discussed what could derail this. But I did say intervention was a two-way conversation. Let's look at the other piece that is critical. We call that character to accept. Character to accept. How you respond to the intervention can either make or break it. Are you the sort of person who is open or dismissive to feedback? Acceptance takes practice and maturity. Saying thank you means you appreciate their concern. Intervention usually comes from a good place. Make sure you listen to why someone is intervening. Remember, 2 ears, 1 mouth. Best to use them in that ratio. Let the intervener explain what they saw, what they heard. That becomes the basis for your conversation. If they've misunderstood, do them the courtesy of explaining what's gone on. Appreciate that it may have taken bravery on the part of the intervener to speak up, particularly if they are less experienced than you. So don't fob them off. If you have a good reason for dismissing their concerns, then explain why now might not be a good time to interrupt. Attack is not the best form of defence. Speaking up. We've covered practical intervention tips and it all sounds pretty straightforward, but choosing to intervene is trickier. What usually prevents us from speaking up is we don't want to upset our colleagues, we don't want to appear to be wasting people's time. We let hierarchy get in the way. Often we're afraid to question the oldest, the wisest voice or the more senior person. All this can lead to internal conflict, and you could end up thinking, I should speak up but I won't. It's important to remember that safety is our #1 priority. No one should criticise you for speaking up in the name of safety. In summary, we've discussed the importance of intervention and that everyone must have the courage to intervene and the character to accept. We've also talked about practical tools that bring about a consistent, professional approach. At the end of the day, intervention is a choice. It starts with each of us being willing to speak up when things don't seem right and to know that we have the support of people around us to back us up. If you do intervene, you won't necessarily get it right first time, and not every intervention will go well. Practice makes perfect, and the good news is that small opportunities to brush up on our skills happen every day. The important thing here is to start out small. In this way, you'll be better equipped to deal with big issues should they arise. Finally, remember interventions can be positive. If we give feedback when things are going well, this only serves to promote goal zero behaviours. And if we do this, we'll create a goal zero business. And a goal zero business is a good business.